Thank you very much to everyone who's joining. I'm so happy to have our guest host, Javi Fuchs, on this amazing webinar where we're going to talk a lot about how to 6x your revenue by turning one-time buyers into brand loyalists using social and email. Javi, you want to make a quick intro before I get to your bio later?
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm really excited to be doing this with you because it's honestly, it sounds so huge. It sounds so monumental. It sounds so impossible when we say 6 times your revenue. But this is really stuff that you've worked clients through, that I've worked clients through, that High Flyer Digital is working clients through. It's done, it's proven, it's tested. It sounds, unbelievable. And quite frankly, it isn't. It's a lot simpler, I think, than what people expect. So I'm really excited that we're here talking about this tonight.
Yeah, it's such a critical part of the e-commerce world. A lot of brands kind of sleep on it, or they just kind of don't focus on it. And we'll get to why that is in a second, but it's just fascinating to see that and really excited to have that up, with everyone, get to understand it a little bit more. So
Absolutely.
Number one, let's set the tone here. Let's set an understanding about, why we're even having this webinar, right? So have you ever wondered as a brand, how the top brands out there, how the top 1%, the Caspers, the Brooklynins, Away Travel, how they scaled up to billions in such a couple short years? They just kind of seemingly overnight, they just came out of nowhere, started, making billions of dollars, became the next unicorn. So that's the main question. Second, how the top 1% of e-commerce brands really utilize email CRM to drive their sustainable, predictable growth, right? That is another channel that's just kind of growing, and how do they leverage it at the level they do? Finally, next, how do you ensure a profitable e-commerce business that really is Amazon-proof and recession-proof? Everyone wants to try and compete with Amazon, own their customers. Amazon's a walled garden, as we know, right, Javi? You have to see you're nodding your head. It's exactly what it is. And how do we become Amazon-proof in some respects, right? And then finally, how do the top 1% just really leverage email, CRM, and social media to drive that sustainable, predictable? I kind of said that in the first slide, right? That was kind of repetitive, but that's how, that's the main question we want to ask, right? That's what we want to take away, right?
I think the real thing to also mention here is that the vast majority of businesses, many of them are already doing some form of email marketing or SMS or social. So what's the difference? What's that bit that they have to do to take it the next step to really scale it? Because a lot of times you're doing it, you have everything implemented, your automations, and you just plateau out. So even if someone's already, doing their social and paid and email and SMS, we're going to talk about other stuff here that really helps you just take everything that you're already feeling comfortable with, just bring it up to the next level again to scale.
Exactly it. How do you scale that, what you're doing now, to the next level, so it's not kind of the same old? As we know, there's a law of diminishing returns. You're going to end up going through what you're doing, and if you're not learning and refining and constantly evolving, you're dying, right? So great point. Great point. So some of the takeaways I'd like you all to have on this webinar is as follows, right? After this webinar, I'd like you to step back and say, here's what I gained from it. Number one, why repeat buyers provide a more profitable, predictable, and sustainable revenue stream for your business, right? These are your customers, and having them buy more often is so much more important than having them try you out once or twice, right? Or really, once for the most part. And we'll show you exactly the metrics on that. Number two, how do the top 1% utilize email and social to drive sustainable growth? And then
what are they doing different?
What are they doing differently? What's in their secret sauce? What are they drinking, right? Next, what are the methods to turn one-time buyers into repeat buyers? How do you do it? And how do you do it using email and social at the same time, right? Most people say you can either do one or the other, but now we're looking at it synergistically and saying, hey, there's a way to do it that combines both channels cohesively and in a more orchestrated fashion.
And in fact, I would take it a step further and say that that's possibly really the only way to successfully do it, is to make sure that you're on multiple channels.
Yes, that's very true. That's very true. You have to be kind of everywhere, always on, and leveraging that 100%. Next, you want to also say, we want you to take away how to win back existing customers and ensure to a reasonable expectation that they never churn again, using either predictive strategies or just a better, more attention to them before they churn. That's going to be very important as well.
I know that this can be a really tough point for businesses that started off very small, that when they were in the very beginning stages, they were able to give everyone a very personal touch. But at a certain point, they growed the way they should, the way they wanted to, the way they were supposed to. And you get to a point where you can't give that same kind of personal touch anymore, especially if you're used to a brick and mortar type of store and e-commerce is newer to you. Figuring out how do you give that personal expectation, that personalized experience at scale.
Right. That's exactly it. How do you scale that up to really make it, effective? And how do you just, turn it on autopilot in a way? Right. And then finally, we're going to go into exactly how to measure success with some of the key performance indicators that matter. Lifetime value is a little bit of a longer window. So we want to kind of give you the ideas about how to measure it, how to really go back. If you're an e-commerce business owner, how do you measure it yourself? Or if you're working for a larger company or a business, how do you go back to your boss and get the buy-in you need to kind of, invest in that strategy? So we're going to give you some of the key performance indicators to work on. So those are the takeaways we want you to get out of this. And while we're going through this, right, this is a pretty intense, well thought out kind of presentation, and we want you to take the most out of it. So we want to invite you, turn off their cell phones. I have my cell phone. I could tell my cell phone's buzzing already, right? It's mid-afternoon. You dedicate time to this. So turn off your cell phones, turn off social media, really get serious about growing your email, SMS, and social program, your CRM strategy, and, dedicate the next 60 minutes to really going all in on it. It's going to be so important. And if you stay to the end, right, what we're also going to provide you with is some extra value to help you take the next step, print it out, use it, right? We show you in our High Flyer Digital Growth Guide how to grow e-commerce revenue by 300% in 90 days. This is using the same strategies we're talking about here. I'll also be able to provide you with our email and CRM cheat sheet, which allows you to kind of excel in building that customer relationship. And best of all these strategies also help social, because social will tie in with your email address. You have a lot of data points. As long as you're surrounding your customers with everything about you, this will help your business thrive. So that's what we're going to provide you for free after this, totally. So now I want to talk a little bit about Klavi. We'll let Klavi talk a little bit about a little bit about who you are, why we should listen to you, why you're awesome, because you're simply awesome. We work with you on a lot of stuff. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been in digital marketing for over 7 years now, going on 8. I've worked in small agencies, large agencies. I've done B2C, I've done B2B, I've done nonprofits, working as an outside consultant, worked in startups. So I've really done the whole gamut, every kind of ins and outs, e-commerce and leads, and just every kind of campaign you can imagine. I've worked with huge global brands running really large monthly budgets. I'm really glad to be, a part of High Flyer now and using these proven methodologies and strategies and implementing them for the High Flyer clients and helping them get where they need to go.
Definitely. And it's such a big help to have you here and doing this with us. Having your expertise and just the social expertise is so critical nowadays, where everyone's on social media. You probably have people checking social media all the time. So knowing someone who knows everything they need to do and has the customer-centric philosophy, so critical nowadays, right?
Absolutely. That's what it is all about.
Amazing. So now a little bit about me. Who am I? Why should you listen to me? Well, that's a great question. A lot of my wife and kids don't even listen to me sometimes. This is great. A lot of clients don't even listen to me sometimes. But what we do is, I was the, move my thing up here for a second. I was a director of email and CRM at some of the largest e-commerce brands in the nation. I built some of the strategies that you're seeing right now, where we've managed multi-million-dollar email lists. I've been lucky enough to kind of run hundreds of automations, hundreds of lifecycle campaigns. I was lucky enough to be awarded the best email performer year over year at Blue Core Summit. I've been invited to speak at a lot of different industry events, all because I have a much more customer-centric approach to marketing. I believe in humanizing it. And again, we've worked with just the top brands in the world, bringing some of the strategies to them. And that's why I'm here now, sharing them with you, so you guys can elevate your e-commerce store, your brand, your business to the next level to compete and win in a crowded marketplace. So that's a little bit about
Right.
me, right? It's a very
Crowded
crowded,
and noisy marketplace.
noisy market. That's hard to stand out, right? So that's exactly why. And I think combined, our both of our expertise allow you to have two distinct channels where you excel in, right? You have the email side, CRM, and the social side, both of which play a major role in CRM. So we're
That's
really
right.
excited to bring that to you.
And that each work, like we said, each has their own strengths. And then when you have them running holistically, they just bolster each other even more and more.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, exactly. And we've done the work, exactly. So our mission at High Flyer Digital is, we build better customer relationships. If there's one thing we do, right? Many people say, well, I do email marketing, or we do, SMS, or we do social, but at the root of it, our goal is to help build better customer relationships. We're not just here to send emails or just here to, send out text messages or run Facebook ads. Our goal is to help you build a better customer relationship, right? We want you to excel, be on top of mind for your customers, and really help them succeed in where they are. And together we'll all go up. It's a rising tide lifts all ships, right?
Absolutely.
So that's what we focus on. And like I said, our mission really is to elevate your brand to compete and win in e-commerce. As we said, it's a very noisy, competitive marketplace out there. Everyone is trying to compete for the same space, the same dollar. And if we can provide some of the top strategies that we've worked on with our brands, within the agency life, and bring it to the small business, well, that's great, because everyone got affected during COVID, and now post-COVID, everyone's trying to kind of steady the ship and try to get to the next level. And that's what we're helping you do. And we believe to win e-commerce, right? We want to market to people, not emails, not ones and zeros. We want to market to actual people, right, Kavi? You agree?
Absolutely, 100%. It's all about, like you said, the relationship. And, talking about the relationship, the conversation really it's not just about how you talk to them, but it's also about how you listen. And the way that you listen is through your data. The way that your customers are talking to you is they're talking to you, but it's coming to you in data. So you need to translate that into meaningful insights so that you can communicate meaningfully with the people on the other end of that computer.
That's so beautiful the way you said that. A lot of people talk at their customers. They talk at you, sell, buy. But you're saying, listen, take the time back to listen and build a relationship. That's so critical. How many brands would you say off the top of your head actually do that to a really great level?
Oh gosh, very few. I don't want to throw a percentage out there, but just from my own experience and also just seeing brands out there in the wild, very few people understand what they're supposed to do with their data, if they even are tracking it. It's hard for them to take that and turn it into meaningful insights.
Yes, very true. Very difficult to kind of gather that all up and make it actionable. And
Right.
And that's why our values are kind of very important to us, right? Our value number one, build great relationships. One of our values right now is also focus on the click. I have another, webinar, which glad to host, and we'll talk about that also, is, every relationship starts with a click, right? Google built up their business just by clicks, right? So just that focus on the click allows you to kind of, get that data that is so vital to building and listening to people. And finally, our value is to work smart, not hard. If you can build something and set it to autopilot, set it to auto learn, set it to constantly be evolving, based on the data that's coming in, based on the data going out, based on the metrics that your customer is telling you, well, guess what? Your business then becomes a much more seamless and efficient business. That's why we adhere to the flywheel model as opposed to the funnel. The flywheel is constantly rotating, and we'll definitely get into that a little bit more over and over. In terms of, you can look at our case studies, you can look at all we've done. We've done some of the great stuff for some of the top brands. I'm not going to go into the case studies too much. I want to give more information about what we're going to provide, but feel free to review our case studies. We have a lot of experience in e-commerce brands, and all of them have seen success. And we're so thrilled to be in that space and the niche and helping brands excel. So now let's get into the meat and potatoes of this webinar and discuss exactly why customer lifetime value is so critical to e-commerce, right? It's the lifeblood of e-commerce, wouldn't you say? It's everything.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's something, especially with younger e-commerce businesses, that's something that they haven't really figured out for themselves yet. And even when you're starting out, it's so important to have that lifetime value in mind from the very beginning so that you're already collecting the stats. You know, before you have anything, you don't want to suddenly wake up 10 years down the road and say, oops, I haven't been collecting any data. You know?
We've seen that. Yep.
So I know a lot of young business owners think that lifetime value is not important for them to think about yet, but it really is important from the very beginning.
Very much. That's a good point. They can't just wake up one day and say, oh yeah, I do want to focus on lifetime value. Oh, where's your data? Yeah. Oh man, we definitely have seen those cases. So why is LTV so critical for e-commerce brands right now? Well, bunch of reasons. We'll go through some of the top ones, right? Number one, we have this basic Pareto principle, right? 80-20 rule. 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts, right? When you apply it to e-commerce, 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your customers, right? So it makes sense to focus on your best customers because majority of revenue will come from those customers, right?
Right.
So it's just a much more efficient way of looking at your marketing. And when you focus on those customers, your business is, like I said, more profitable, predictable, and sustainable. That's going to be the major key. Another reason is, and Javi, you probably know this answer pretty well, there's an own channel versus a borrow channel. Owning your customers is so important, right?
Right. And now I know this can be a confusing point to a lot of people when we talk about owning, you know, our customers. We're talking, of course, about data, about whether you'll be able to reach them again, if you'll be able to access and see how they're interacting with your brand, with your digital assets. And because those really, that's how you're going to figure out the lifetime value. That's how you're going to increase the lifetime value. It's how you're going to, again, build that relationship like we talked about. So it's very important taking into account that you have your own channels, that you're tracking your data from the very beginning. You know, get those pixels on your websites, even if you're not doing paid ads yet. You know, they're just set up so that you're collecting your data, so that you own your data and you have it when you need it.
Yes. Oh man, owning the data, that should also be changed. Not just owning customers, owning the data, right? That's so critical. And you borrow it from, I mean, you'll probably talk about this, you know, with the iOS 15 change or the Facebook algorithm always changing, or all these data points are constantly evolving. Owning it is so critical. Another reason is customer loyalty is focused on convenience for the most part, especially with e-commerce brands. A lot of customers love convenience. And when you're up against Amazon, who is the king of convenience, they always have a leg up, right? So if they always have a leg up, well, you need to focus on how to get that loyalty that you just can't compete with. So focusing on what your customers are most interested in, how to get them to be more loyal to you is so important. And that only comes out of examining your LTV. It's not just let's get this new buyer to spend money, and this buyer to spend money, and this buyer to spend money. It's more about how do you keep a customer loyal to you and not just jumping off to Amazon. And you may want it, you may sell on Amazon, but it's much more profitable to sell it directly. Right. But
usually if you're selling on Amazon and your website, it's because you really have no choice and you have to be selling on Amazon, yeah, exactly. But you'd rather it be coming from your site.
Yes, of course. That's exactly it. Amazon's almost holding you hostage, and like they attribute so much, a huge amount of your revenue, and you're like, I can't break free. A lot of brands are like that. But the number one reason for why LTV is so important is that 75% of e-commerce buyers stay one-time buyers, right?
That is so sad. I just want to stop for a second and make sure everyone heard that, because that is so shockingly sad. Just think about how hard you work to get every single customer in the door, on your shop, on your site. By the time you get them, one purchase and they're gone.
Right. It's inefficient, right? You're happy. We got that momentary like high where you're like, wow, got my buyer, amazing, I'm so excited. But then, as my mom always used to say, everyone will try something once, right? We all know that. We'll all try something, but to have 75% gone, just very demoralizing. And then you're constantly in chase mode.
And then you have these people like my father who shop so often online. You say, well, what shop did you get this from? And they don't even remember anymore.
Right. That's how it is. Yeah. Lack of loyalty, lack of brand recognition, just brand recall is gone. So, and that's terrible to know that looking at your list right now, looking at your customers, 75% of them maybe just, gone forever. They bought once and gone. And then to top that off, there's also, you can go even deeper, right? 80% of holiday buyers will not convert into non-holiday buyers, right? During Black Friday season, during, the Q4, everyone, huge jump.
Put so much
Yeah.
budget into their holiday campaigns. Imagine if that marketing budget was working for you all year long as well, and not just for that holiday campaign.
Exactly. Yeah. You could focus it. You could expand it. You could focus on just making sure that they keep coming in quarter after quarter after quarter instead of just one and done. Right. And then I'll compound it even more. 50% of those sales are actually made on promotion or markdown. So even if you do win them one time, it's still not profitable, right? You've still maybe broke even. In some cases, maybe even lost money, depending on how you're going after it. So in majority of customers are just not, you see this guy right here with the one bag, they're just not being nurtured to repeat sales. And this is why CLV is so critical, right? Because if you have one and done buyers, well, guess what? Everyone's going to have one and done buyers, and they're going to go to shop somewhere else every single time. That's going to be inefficient for your brand. So that's why it's so critical.
If you think about it, like, to me, it just breaks my heart because they bought from you. So you know that they're your target audience. You know that they find value in what you're selling, and you know that they, managed to work through your site enough to actually do what you want everyone to do when they're on the site, which is purchase. So it's like, yes, great. No, where are you going? Come back.
Right. Where'd you go? I thought we had a good relationship, right? You ghosted
me.
Right?
Yeah. It's like getting a marriage proposal and then he walks right off.
That's right. It's not a relationship for either side. And it's such a shame. Very sad to say. So if we can understand it's so critical, then why are brands like not excelling in it? Why are they just doing it bad, right? Maybe they're just not focused on it. That's a good reason. I understand that. Not a good reason, but I understand that, right? If you don't have a focus on it, that's probably why you're on the webinar now. But why are brands just not growing it and not excelling at that, right? So there's a few reasons that we've identified here. Is that number one, a lot of brands are focused on a funnel approach and not on the flywheel approach, right? They're focused on, and we're all, imbued into our minds, it's about the funnel, get a funnel going, build this funnel, build that funnel. A funnel is pretty much saying, let's get everyone into our pipeline. We're going to trickle them down, get our best people to buy a product. After that, like any funnel, it runs out, right? You're gone, it's dropped, gone, right? So, but the flywheel approach allows you to kind of have on its own momentum, get one customer, nurture them into a repeat buyer, nurture them into a loyalist, and have them go find more people related to them. That's the flywheel approach. A totally different approach, right? It's a much more efficient way, but brands don't focus on it, right? Maybe they don't know about it, right? Amazon knows about it though. So that's so important to remember. Number two, some brands go for the upsell too early, right? Many times that they start selling a person before the customer has actually unboxed the item or actually, utilized the item. And they go for the kill way too quickly. And then it's just the customer's looking like an open, pocketbook or wallet, right? They're just like, oh, well, that's all I am to you. The relationship isn't there, right? In addition, there's many different success metrics. We live in a world of FOMO. We live in a world where we want quick wins, right? Just win. And when you're looking for a quick win, the quickest win is to get them to buy again, no matter what. So a lot of brands steamroll them into buying something else. A lot of, if you look in some of the top, shopping portals and shopping engines, like even Shopify or WordPress, they focused on, turn on an upsell, go sell them more, right? That's the plan. You want to sell them more, but, it's a quick win. While CLV is very big picture. It could take, months.
Things to keep in balance, for sure. Yeah. It's not like we're saying there's never a place for quick wins. I mean, sometimes you really need your quick wins.
Sure.
It's just you always want to make sure that you're keeping it in balance with your big picture, with your lifetime value. Because if you're only always focusing on quick wins all the time, I can assure you, number one, you're going to be exhausted and overwhelmed all the time. Yeah. Every month you're going to be pushing and struggling, to reach those goals. and you're never going to get it. You're never going to push through if you're just constantly focusing on only those small wins. So of course, all the time, we do need quick wins sometimes, but we don't want to get lost in the quick wins.
Yes, that balance is so important, very critical. And then this is great, for, as you were saying, a lot of brands, and you'll talk about that a little bit deeper on the as we go through this, they don't focus on segmenting their ads, certainly not by purchasing lifecycle, right?
No. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how many websites aren't even doing just the most basic of remarketing, even without segmenting. I personally will, when I'm scrolling and I see something that I'm interested in, but I don't have time right now, I will click there for a second. I'm a marketer. I know how these things work ideally, or are supposed to work. And I say, God, I hope their marketing team knows what they're doing, because I really want to see their remarketing ad, because I'm never going to find them again. And I want them to find me. Like, I really will click on things because I want them to find me again. And so many are just not doing that. Find them again. They want you to.
Right. You think they remember you, and they would say, like, you know what, we know you're interested. You may not have time now, but later on, we'll still stay on top of mind.
Yep.
So important. Right. And then also, there's a lot of changes in technology happening all the time, right? iOS 15, is that probably top of mind right now for social marketers? Yeah.
That was the big one recently that kind of threw everyone. Everyone took a lot of time freaking out about it to prepare for it, freaking out about it while it was happening, and freaking out about it after the fact. There's always changes in data going on. At the end of the day, it's a very fine dance, because of course, it is very important to us as ethical business owners that, we're using data correctly, securely, ethically. So, on the one hand, it's completely understandable. On the other hand, as a marketer, it's a lot to keep on top of. And it can make it harder and harder to make sure that you don't have leaky flywheels, as it were, that people are leaving and you're not sure because of the data. There are just challenges that we have today, and we move forward with the best tools that we have and the best practices.
Yes, and it's actually iOS 14. I remember, and that
14,
it's 14. Yeah, we're already on 15. We're thinking, oh my
God,
I
was like, wow, I must have really slept a long time this past year.
Yeah, it also affects email, from what we're seeing, that it may affect open rates and what that open data means, which again is not the best metric to measure an email program or on, but just the idea that there's constantly technology changes that are kind of sacrificing data, and you're not thinking big picture. That is the challenge.
It is they struggle. Like you said, it's constantly changing. It can be complicated if it's not your forte. It's not always clear to understand what's allowed, what isn't allowed, what to set up, how to work around everything. Brands definitely struggle with that. There's a lot. It's a very dynamic market. Definitely
a struggle. So now that we know CLV is important and critical to e-commerce brands, and we know that brands struggle with it, well, great. But why is it important right now, here and now, right? So there's a few reasons why you need to start thinking about jumping on this concept and jumping on this strategy and thinking about it long-term for these reasons. Number one, COVID-19 disrupted traditional buying patterns, right? We have a picture of a snow globe right there where we kind of like turned it up, and it's like all the snow is around, and now things are starting to settle, right? Hopefully some places are in post-COVID momentum. Some are still dealing with the Delta variant, but in general, this snow, is still up in the air, and there's a lot of opportunities still to seize.
And the ones that have landed have probably not landed where they were before. They were thrown away. They're in a completely different place now. Yeah,
so a lot of customers you thought were active are now churning. A lot of customers that were one-time buyers may be buying multiple times, but it's just so much uncertainty, and it's up in the air. So the time to really focus on it and making yourself ready for it, CLV, is now. In addition, Amazon consistently is absorbing your customers, right? We just heard the news most recently this week. Amazon is building up department stores now, which they will sell. It's like the Macy's or Nordstrom, Lord & Taylor of pretty much everything. And they're coming to a store near you, a mall near you. They're constantly revolving that flywheel. They're excelling their flywheel. You can see the example right there. You have to compete because your customers, not only because your business needs to, but your customers expect you to compete, right? So Amazon's the big elephant in the room taken over a lot. Finally, another reason is direct-to-consumer brands and apps are constantly inserting themselves in between you and the customer, right? I can't tell you how many times we've seen brands say, "Oh, I've worked with DoorDash, and I used to have my customers like to order on DoorDash now, or they order on Uber Eats," and I guess they don't have any data for me. Excuse me. So there's this mismatch, right? They used to have a relationship with their customer. Now they're putting in this intermediary. Gone. That relationship is gone, right? I'm sure you've used DoorDash and Uber Eats or wherever you're using in Israel, but it exists.
Yeah, Walt.
Yeah.
Those are ours.
And then paid media, because everyone's jumping to it and everyone kind of like starts running more and more Facebook ads, more Google ads. Paid media is getting pricier and erodes your margins,
Yes,
right? Wouldn't you say?
It is getting pricier across all the verticals. I don't think anyone expected to get cheaper.
No, no way.
Challenge. It is a challenge, especially, again, for these new businesses starting out and they're trying to figure out what marketing budget makes sense for them. Yeah, you have to take into account that paid media is getting pricier. There's more competition. Yeah, you just got to get better at it.
So you have to get much better at it, much more efficient with your existing dollars. Exactly it. But there's, once again, a number one reason why CLV is so important, which again, it's all in the actual numbers, right? About what you'll say. The number one reason why CLV is so important is that it costs 600 to 700% more to acquire a customer than keep a customer, right? There you go. That's number one. That's it.
I'm pointing to it.
Point down. That's the number one reason, right? You have a 65% chance of converting existing customers compared to 13% for new customers. So not only will you sell more to your existing ones, but it's cheaper to retain than gain, right? I may coin that term, cheaper to retain than gain.
For the parents out there, imagine having to get a new babysitter every single time you went out and having to train them and do, show them the kitchen and the bathroom lights and which ones need to be left on. And, I had the kid who had a little blankie tag that had to be right on his right cheek when he went to sleep, and I had to explain it perfectly. When you have a babysitter who's been coming back, you just get to say, "Hey, have a great time," and walk out the door. If you're going around looking for a new babysitter every time, it's going to be a lot more difficult to walk out the door every time if you have to go through all that process all over again.
There you go. It's harder to it's easier to retain than train and gain, right? Yep. You can't train someone and you lose momentum. So that's it, exactly what it is. And just again, existing customers trust more, they convert better and grow faster. So, and how do you keep those customers? It's an email and social strategy, how to orchestrate it, how to work it together, how to make it, maximize it. So I'll stop there. Feel free to send any questions or comments in the chat. We can actually share that. I think in terms of ROI, you could probably see that the ROI is there, right? We'll see exactly why we explain why it's critical, and you see where most fail. And, hopefully you're prepared to implement a strategy to unlock that value. Okay. So, we'll go next to the next part, which is we're going to go and talk about the 3 main strategies to really excel in that will help you 6x your revenue. Right? If you have any questions, again, you can put it in the chat and we'll answer them. I see a couple coming in. We'll answer them as we get to the next question section. But we're going to go right now into the actual strategies as they go and, understand which ones are most critical, right? These are the 3 most critical. So post-purchase experience, what happens as you make a purchase? Segmenting by CLV, how you segment people out by life cycle or where they are in their purchasing, life cycle, you'd say. And finally, how do you win back lost customers?
Life cycle or the marketing or sales cycle as well.
Yeah, the marketing, exactly. How do you segment them out specifically? And finally, how do you win back the ones you already lost, right? We all know that if you're listening to this, you probably have customers you can identify like, yeah, I wish I had them back. So how do you win them back and really focus on that and make sure you don't lose them again? So we're going to go into the first one, which is the post-purchase experience, right? What is the experience after purchase? What is it to you, right? Many times, as I said before, the funnel is one of the approaches, but then there's another approach. And that's what a lot of brands focus on. It's called the hourglass approach, right? And I'm going to go into this a little bit deeper, and we're going to go from it for 2 angles. We're going to go from the email side and then go from the social side. And together we'll kind of come to terms with exactly how that works. So from purchase, most of the time, as you see here, right, the pre-purchase funnel, you're reviewing your product, you're evaluating it, you're doing your research, you're vetting out different brands who sell which product and who's going to give it to you best, who's got the free shipping, and you make a purchase, right? This is where mall brands kind of say, we're done. We let customer service take over, and they're going to handle it. They handle all the inquiries, they handle all the problems. Reality is nowadays, customer service and marketing are extremely intertwined. You need to really merge them. I've seen many brands have a chief customer officer who is on the marketing side and the customer service side. That's their job, right? Exactly. You've seen that too, right, Klavi? Yeah, it's what it is.
100%. Yeah.
So critical nowadays, right? When everyone's kind of communicating different channels.
I mean, if you think about it, so many people that's their channel that they're going to reach out on is social media.
Yeah.
You need to have something, a place for things coming in on social media that need someone, an actual person and not a bot to respond to.
Correct. Yeah. Oh, my thing is broken. You can't have a bot respond to that necessarily. You got to actually deal with them. And it's also an emotional dealing with. So some of the things we've seen is that the post-purchase hourglass comes in about 4 different areas you want to focus on, which is number 1, adoption. Number 2, retention. Number 3, expansion. Number 4 is advocacy. I'm going to go into what that means right now. And I'm going to use an example of when I was at Adorama and we were doing this exact kind of philosophy. Think of it as you just bought a camera, right? You just bought a camera, a nice lens. Adoption phase is the minute after my purchase. I'm in that phase of, I need to make sure, does it work? Do I have everything I need? Do I have my user guide? Do I have my manual? Have I got my warranty? Right? Does it turn on? Right? All this area of like, how can customer service come in and help me adopt the product? And it works with everything, right? You get a suit online. You're going to go in. Does it fit well? Did it live up to my expectations? Is the quality really nice? Can I get the tag off? Do I have a return? Do I have the box to return it? That's all in the adoption phase, right? That is the phase where we're not selling them yet, right? We want to make sure to wow them. The next phase comes in with the retention phase. Retention phase focuses on, I could have gotten this product anywhere. Why did I get it from, in this case, Adorama? I got it from Adorama because of XYZ, because they will help me with, they have great blog content. They have great videos. They have great tutorials, hands-on videos, experts who are there to help.
And I'll also add here, because I know a lot of businesses have trouble, really getting comfortable with their unique value point. And I'll say that I wouldn't focus even on being unique. I would just focus on your value point. After I've had a really good shopping online experience, I never think to myself, I wonder if there are any websites doing it just as good as, if not better. That's not what I think. I think this was a really great experience, and that's enough for me.
Right. That's it. Yeah. It's about just establishing what's your value. And a lot of brands kind of sleep on that. They just be like, well, you bought something, go deal with it. That value is so important. You're right. Unique value, work on that later on, but value for now is so critical. And I can't tell you how many times, it's not just about like blog content or things like that. It's also, are you hosting them at events? Are you building the community with them? That's another part of it. So many different layers here, but that's the retention phase, right? The product works. Adorama is providing me more value, right? That's the value of them. The next stage is the expansion phase. Now you played around with your toy, you realize it's great. And this is where we can now start saying, hey, let's get you some more products, not just to upsell you, but how to maximize what you bought, right? You bought this wonderful suit. Let's get these shoes to go with it and go out and get your interview, or go out and get married, or wherever it may be, right? That's exactly what that expansion phase is. And you have permission now to market to them because you've already shown them that, number one, you matched their expectations, right? You've gotten the product they needed. You've shown them extra value. Now we can accessorize and do even more. That's that expansion phase. And finally, at that point is where you start getting to advocacy, where you start saying, great, we've gotten you what you needed. We've helped you, maximize your purchase. We've shown you why you can be even more and create even more things and do even more what your expectations are. Now, please share your experience with others, share your experience with us, share your review, share your user-generated content, tag us, join our community, whatever it may be, leave a review. That's in the advocacy phase. And all those play a major role. And that's the kind of phases of the hourglass. This is how you start building out a post-purchase series within email. And this is probably plays a major role within social too, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
All of these are critical, and when you think of it that way, that's will help you, excel in the post-purchase series. So the one question I got before was that, what's the timing of this? That's a great question, because the timing is really depends on the product, right? If I bought a camera, I may not buy another camera for a year. So I have a little bit of time for that purchase. But if I'm buying a stick of gum, right, I may want a stick of gum in a week from now, right? So it really depends on researching. It may not work for a stick of gum, but you know what I mean? It depends on the type of product you're buying. So this hourglass philosophy kind of, rises and shrinks based on what you're doing.
And I'm glad you brought up the stick of gum, because the fact is that the larger the price tag, the longer your hourglass is going to take.
Yeah, that's
The
exactly
bigger the
it.
price point, the longer it's going to take for them to work through your marketing and sales, journey, the flywheel. It's something that you have to keep in mind, because people aren't going to purchase something that costs $500 as easily as they're going to cost something purchase something that costs $15.
Right.
It's just a different amount of thinking that goes into it, and a different amount of decision making.
Exactly it. There's a lot more at stake, a lot more, you invested a lot more, you probably have a lot more questions. That's exactly it. So now I want to, that's from the email side specifically. Of course, this works for social, but let's talk a little bit about the social end of this and how that plays a role. So I have here, skip the part here, your social media post-purchase goals. Why don't you talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, I do want to talk about this. Now, one caveat I'll say is that unlike email, where you can show really personalized content, you can use people's names. Now, in social media, we can't do that. So, we're not talking about personalization at the same level as email, but still enough that they can feel they know me, they care about me. I haven't just been forgotten, to really create that relationship, like we've been talking about. So a few of the things that you can get out of their post purchases for yourself is, first of all, with that specific person, you can leave them with a good taste in their mouth. We talked about the importance of the adoption phase immediately after. If they were really excited on Monday when they ordered it, and by the time it arrived on Thursday, they'd already forgotten about it, or the next week or 2 weeks later and moved on, then they might not have the same patience to work through that adoption phase. They could be a lot more likely to leave it by the wayside. Keeping them reminded of the content, with content that they're seeing in social, you can thank them for their purchase. You can give them guiding videos to get started even before it comes, so that if you know that there are certain, roadblocks when it comes to adopting, that you can even address those before they're holding their package in their hand, and get them primed to open that package to know exactly what you want them to do. Like with our camera example. So start showing them content about, getting started with this camera, just anything that will keep them just as excited, because we don't want to forget about them after they buy. That's the whole point. That's when they become super important.
And this is a form of marketing. So,
Absolutely. So we have that it really can help your adoption phase be more sticky, be more effective, be quicker, get them to open the box faster when it arrives, kind of keeping them really excited and primed with the content and ready. Getting customer feedback, which is important for both sides. It's important for the customer, because if they didn't have such a good experience, knowing that you're listening will help correct that, right? If you reach out to them and they tell you about a kind of negative experience on your site and they get a good response, that's so much better than if they had a bad experience, you never asked them, and then they just never came back, right? And so that's really, that goes for also both building the relationship and for you, for optimizing your site and your user experience, because their feedback is so important to you, when they can say, well, I was confused about how you figure out the shipping, or I was confused about this and that. That's so important, especially if you hear people saying it over and over again. That is something that needs your attention on your website. Don't ignore it. And the people who just purchased on your website have the freshest memory about it. And they're the best ones to tell you, yes, it was a good buying experience. No, it wasn't a good buying experience.
Right. Very true. And you say here, you got to build trust with the purchaser, right? And get those positive reviews. I apologize. I should have the picture here. I don't know why it didn't embed, but either way, we'll still.
And another, growing positive reviews, this is a really great way, because everyone needs their positive reviews, and you only need the official reviews, right? Whether it's on the App Store or on Amazon, right? They're reviews that are worth more than others because they're verified, and you can prove this is a real buyer. And this can actually be a great way to prime people for that, because before you send them to the App Store where they're going to leave you 2 stars. Did you know they were going to do that before you sent them there?
Right.
You give them an intermediary, you give them your own, way to give feedback. And then if it's negative, you can reach out to them directly and help them, get back on track with a good relationship with you. And if it's already positive, then you can just create an automation that pushes good feedback to encourage them to leave you reviews on the sites where you're specifically trying to get reviews now. But that way you make sure that you're only asking people who are having good experiences to leave those Amazon reviews and so on and so forth.
We don't want your 2-star review on our site, right? Give us just the best. Right.
Exactly. Give yourself a chance to fix their experience before they go and leave you a bad review. So that it's really the customer feedback is so big, also in terms of your social proof, building your name and your brand online. You need to be there and you need to be listening. Yes. That's really the main.
There's one takeaway: you got to listen to people. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. And then you mentioned also social surveys, right? The actual surveys and the question length.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this, I think, is another great way. It kind of does a lot in one, because again, it gives you your feedback, and you can also give offers and incentives. This can be a great way also to, if you want them to complete like a feedback form or something, but you want to make sure that you keep it really short on social. It's not like email where someone sits there, on their coffee break when they're procrastinating getting back to work anyway, and they can go through like 20 questions. Now, someone scrolling through Facebook is going to want to do this. So give them content that they can move through really quickly, just a few questions and be done with it.
Amazing. Yeah, I'll be the first to say, at least even just from the email side, I know we have about a 5-10 question survey for some of our clients. That email, for those who are concerned about, revenue and sending another email, that automation, it goes back to Google document for a survey. Yet that's probably the 4th highest converting automation. Just a survey. People want to hear about it. They're willing to buy from it, so it not only helps you get the data you need, but also provides a revenue stream. So that's really cool. And definitely on social, it probably is great to see that come up on your feed. Greg, I think it's Greg. Greg asks, are these ads as well? Are you running these as ads, or are these running as just static organic?
Yes, as ads, because if they were organic, you couldn't determine who sees them and who doesn't. And here it's really important to me that only the people that it's relevant, that I want them to see the survey. And so that's why we're talking about using paid media here. In organic, it's just one message for everyone. With paid media, we're really able to segment and show our specific content to specific audiences.
Amazing. Very helpful. And then you also mentioned about incentivizing people for this and how to get them to the next level. Any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this is also a really great way. Everyone on their site always has the social share, right? Share on Facebook, share on this. Very few people are going to do a social share from the website. If you give them an interesting post, though, you might get a social share out of that relates to their purchase. you know, it, for lack of a more scientific term, it's just a bit dorky to be sharing, websites with friends. Look what I just bought. But on the other hand, if you're very excited about it and there's content about it that's funny and interesting or cool, and that you're excited and want to share with someone else, you're a lot more likely to share a social post than you are to hit that button from the landing page or the checkout or the thank you page, And this is just, again, this is that area where they're getting that, like all their dopamine is rushing into their brain because they just
Right.
like purchased, right? So they're like, wee, brain synapses
We'll do anything
all lighting up, and they're like primed to share. So you really want to let them go with that. This is a great opportunity for invite a friend, or referral programs. Invite a friend and you both get 10% off, or this and that and the other. Catch them there when they're excited. And invite them to bring more people in to the excitement.
That's exactly it. And what's interesting is based on what you said about getting that post-purchase excitement and getting them to take the next step, you've automatically created this kind of flywheel approach already, right? Just from this alone. You see this, that last slide told you how to do that, right? Step one, ensure email and social are orchestrated and working together, right? You create that hourglass approach where you're constantly giving more and more value, more and more attention, and listening to the customer and sharing the next step. They adopt it, they unlock value from your brand, you help them expand their product, you encourage them then to become advocates for you. Guess what? Now they bring in more and the cycle repeats. And that's how you kind of create this flywheel approach from so many different people, right? Everyone's got a ton of friends that they could bring into this system, all with the same preferences, all with the same likes and loves. So you've already created something there. So that's why I think we spend the most amount of time on the post-purchase portion of this, because that's where you have the most opportunity, right? They're excited, they're ready to go. I would
say that's where there's the most missed opportunity. That's where people are missing all the opportunity.
Yes, that's exactly it.
It's just typically just radio silence after purchase.
That's unfortunate for a lot of brands, and hopefully this will help them get to that next level and really start thinking about what happens after. It's not just customer service, right? It's about marketing. It's about developing the relationship. So that's really great to hear. So I'm going to stop there and ask, I saw a couple questions come in. So I saw a question from Robert that said, I think you kind of answered this already. He said something along the lines of, what if you don't have any bonus value to offer? I don't know if you caught that question. The internet may have come out. The question was, what if you don't have any bonus value to offer? You may have answered that already, right? With your USP. If you don't have a USP, start focus on the SP, right?
Yeah. I would say that if you don't think you have anything to offer, then look further. You almost always do. I'm going to also point out that, pricing is so highly psychological. Person will be more likely to pay something, the same price for something if it was 10% off than if it wasn't. If you think you can't afford to give coupons, maybe you need to increase your prices, and then you can afford to do coupons also, and it's another way to scale at the same time. So if you really think that you don't have anything, to offer here, I would say, think harder, because you probably do.
There's tons of value out there for almost every brand. You just need to know how to leverage what you got and just, play with it, value stack it in different ways.
And again, just the value of building a relationship, the value of saying thank you. Just a post that says, thanks for your purchase. Here's how you can get in touch with customer service if you have any questions about your order. Just let them know that you're ready and listening and available, because that's, I think, where the most frustration happens, is between order and delivery.
Yeah. Very important.
So let them know right from the get-go, we're here.
Dawn asks, where loyalty programs come into play? Do you want to field that one? Loyalty programs, where do they come into play? I guess you mean like points, point programs.
Loyalty programs, we could approach that from so many different aspects. What I'll say, and I'm not sure if this is specifically your question, but I think it's important to bring up, is that a really nice thing about loyalty programs and memberships is that it also allows businesses that are both brick and mortar and e-commerce to get all that data, because with memberships and things like that, you can be getting data in store when they're purchasing. You can be keeping track of them as well. And then you can actually be getting data about your lifetime customer value in store and out of the store. And then you can also start seeing who's purchasing in store and online, right? I mean, if it's especially important in these stores that do have brick and mortar, that were originally once only brick and mortar, are now also available online. There's so much important, useful data happening at your cash register in your store.
Yes.
And things like memberships and things like that are a really great way to help you keep track of data of foot traffic.
Yes, an omni-channel approach. You gotta get the store customer, you pair it up with the rewards program, you get their email tied in, you get their everything, all the data you need just from that rewards program alone. You see that with supermarkets do that really well, where they say, you have your loyalty card, and that kind of pairs all your purchases in store, online, all into one central place. And that's really where the magic is. So I think it's beyond just, wouldn't you agree? It's beyond just the post-purchase flow. It's more just a global thing. It's good to have. You should definitely have that if you can, make it work for your business. Brick and mortar and offline and online. Awesome. Okay, great. Now we dive into that. That was quite a packed post-purchase thing. So we'll go through the. That's good. So we're excited about it. So we'll go to strategy number 2, which is, segmentation by customer lifetime value. Right? How do you segment out, and why should you be segmenting out your customers by the stage they're in? Right? I'll give an example why this is important. Is most of the times they make a purchase and you treat them as the same way as if they never made a purchase. Right? We have this. Especially with email, you have this batch and blast approach where you're just kind of hammering out emails and getting them to buy and sale and discount and everything. How do you change that? And how do you make sure that you're marketing to people at the stage they're at and making sure that you're trying to capture as much profit margin as you can and respecting the stage they're at by listening to where they are, right? So we're going to start, first off, we'll start with you, Mojave. What's your social segmentation strategy? What's your thoughts on that?
So one of the things, and it's almost so simple in its beauty, which is why I love it so much, is you want to create a wide array of content and let people self-sort, so to speak, by engaging in what they're interested in. So, you could have one of the really nice things on Facebook is you can retarget to people who watched specific videos. So if you want to have a video that hits a certain vertical of the products that you sell, and then you can retarget to them about a sale coming up, that's related to that. Just any kind of post like that, and videos are especially great for that. And they're so cheap for the beginning of that journey, because it's not like putting in these very expensive, like we said, the cost per clicks are getting more and more expensive on Facebook. Video views tend to be really, really, really low costs per view. And because of that, just a wonderful way to grow your audience here and let them find you. And again, like I said, self-sort, that they go to the content that they're interested in on their own naturally. And then you cultivate that conversation moving forward.
Nice. That's so smart. Very important. And you also talked about why social segmentation of interest now versus interest later, which I think we can all relate to. Right? Bought something now, right? When I'm interested now or later. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So, talking here, thinking, and I keep bringing up these parenting examples, but I guess that's my life.
It's okay.
Talking about someone who purchased a baby bottle sterilizer, right? So you can think of it, in terms of time right now, but where else on the graph, what else would interest them? So you can stay within category, right? So within baby bottle sterilizer, you've got baby bottles, you've got baby bottle nipples, you've got pacifiers, you've got bottle brushes, you've got adjacent things, similar, other kind of baby products. And then you can also take that and think and try to understand what you know about your target audience from that, and where will they be in the future. So if now they need baby bottles, thinking about, they're going to be needing in the future things for toddlers, and then small children, and then starting school, and so if you start thinking about your client in their own lifetime as well, you can really start understanding how much you have to offer them, for them to just keep coming back, right? Because you're not going to keep selling them a bottle sterilizer over and over again. But
Right. No.
you have something for all the different, life stages, then you're set. You know how to engage with them moving forward. You can already know what their problem points are going to be before they're there themselves. Before their first kid hits first grade, and wow, buying all that back to school gear for the first time is really overwhelming, and you can just make like a preset package, and hit those people that last year were buying kindergarten stuff, that's already taking a jump ahead and anticipating what their needs are going to be. And that's also what builds the relationship. They love it.
Exactly it.
They love when you know them. I love it. I love when my needs are anticipated. I love when I see an ad and I say, holy smokes, that's exactly what I needed and I didn't even realize,
Exactly
and how
it.
is it that they know that I needed that? Because they know what I've been doing up until now,
That's it, and so again, something like you said before, some people find that creepy, but in reality, there's a fine line between super relevant and creepy, not to be creepy, but like, that's.
And we say it's creepy, but on the other hand, if anyone went onto Amazon and they did not see recommended for you, or people who bought this also bought, I have a feeling a lot of people would be pretty pissed. What happened to my Amazon? Where are all my recommendations?
Yep. That's so true. Yeah. They want relevancy, at the end of the day, and know you're listening in the right way. Great. Yeah, exactly. And that's really important. And I'll go now into a little bit about the email side of it and how you can bucket different buyers into different stages. And there's a lot of different ways to kind of think about how to segment it out. And I'll give you some of the more popular ones without going too in depth. That will be maybe a separate webinar about how to go super in depth on your segmentation. But by segmenting in different buckets, you can really measure life cycle migrations over time, right? You can start seeing that, hey, how many non-buyers or subscribers on our list ended up becoming a one-time buyer, and then how many one-time buyers end up becoming a repeat buyer, and then how many repeat buyers end up becoming a lost buyer, whatever it may be. You're able to kind of track that migration and flow and then act accordingly, right? Of course, if you see trends, you can jump out ahead of it. So one of the areas to start with is just build out segments that track these migrations. Start with these 6, right? It's very easy to understand. Non-buyer, one-time buyers, repeat buyers. At-risk buyer is a little bit different. You've got to think of it as like someone who's about to churn, which is a great example. Let's say, and we'll go into that in the next part, but like a churn buyer is someone who has not bought on their typical cadence of purchase. An at-risk buyer is predicting who is going to hit that and break off their cadence of buying. For example, if I go to the coffee shop every week on a Monday, and every week, and then on week 8 I skip, and then on week 9 I skip. Now that's a churned buyer, right? I've gone off my cadence. So how do you predict that doesn't happen, right? So that's that type of migration. And then on top of these, you can layer on, then just a lost buyer is someone who's just kind of either completely gone, or even an unsubscriber can be considered a lost buyer, especially if you can't market to them, right? So that's a lost buyer as well. And then, as I was saying, you can layer on different email engagement and browse behavior, category preferences, product preferences, channel preferences on top of this. But at least you have a buckets of buyers that you can then say, I want to focus my energies on these guys, and this is what I want to send to these guys. It doesn't have to be discount all the time, right? I'm going to give now examples about how, and no, that was the next one, but we'll talk a little bit more on the next thing about what you want to send to them and how you can promote that. So I have a question here from Salim. He says, which segment is the most important to focus on? Well, I'll weigh in first. The segment I think the most important to focus on is that one-time buyer. In my opinion, I think the one-time buyer is the most important, as we just said before. A lost buyer is extremely hard to get back. A churn buyer is also hard to get back. I think a one-time buyer to a two-time buyer, you'll see
And
that
at
revenue
risk.
is huge, right? Yeah, and at
I would
risk,
say also at risk is
also at risk.
important
Yeah,
there too. Yeah,
at risk buyers so critical because if you're able to predict when they're churned and market them before that, oh man, you'll prevent them from leaving. So,
Yeah.
so important.
It's even
Great.
easier than turning them into a multi-purchase buyer because they've already turned themselves into, and it's easier than winning them back because they haven't left yet. But it's really,
Right.
really crucial to keep them there.